It started with a coffee spill. Funny, right? Something so small. But that single drop of espresso on the quarterly report was all it took to ignite a week's worth of tension. I was standing in the break room, half awake, when Eric, our team lead, stormed in with his usual self-important swagger. He was one of those guys who thought every minor inconvenience was a personal attack. I barely looked up until his voice cracked like thunder. "Who the hell spilled coffee on my presentation?" Everyone froze. You could have heard a pin drop. I glanced down and realized it was my cup, still dripping on the counter. My stomach sank. Before I could even open my mouth, he zeroed in on me like a hawk spotting prey. "You," he snapped, pointing. "Of course it's you." Eric wasn't just angry, he was performing his anger. The whole office turned into his audience. He grabbed the stained report, waving it like it was Exhibit A in some courtroom drama. "Do you have any idea how important this presentation is? I've been working on this all week." I said I'm sorry, I muttered, trying to keep my voice level. "It was an accident." "An accident?" he barked, laughing bitterly. "You've had 3 accidents this month alone. Coffee, the printer jam, the client call you nearly tanked. Do you even take this job seriously?" Every word hit harder than the last. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, watching, judging, waiting to see if I'd snap back. My face was burning. "Eric, it's just coffee. I'll reprint the—" He slammed the report onto the table, cutting me off. "You think reprinting solves incompetence?" Something inside me cracked then. I'd spent months swallowing my pride, taking his passive-aggressive comments, letting him talk down to me like I was some intern instead of someone who'd been here almost as long as he had. But this public humiliation was too much. I took a slow breath, forcing a smile. "You know what, Eric? Maybe if you didn't leave your papers lying around like a toddler, this wouldn't have happened." The room went silent. You could feel the shift, like static before lightning. Eric blinked, his smirk faltering. "What did you just say?" I stepped closer, my voice calm but shaking with anger. "You heard me. You're not mad about the coffee. You're mad that someone finally stopped bowing down to you." Gasps, whispers. One coworker mouthed, "Oh my God," and Eric, his jaw clenched, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. Eric took a step toward me, his voice dropping into that low, venomous tone that only people who love control can master. "Watch yourself," he said, so quietly that it sent chills down my spine. "You have no idea who you're talking to." "Oh, I think I do," I shot back. "I'm talking to a guy who throws tantrums because his coffee got spilled." Someone at the desk snorted. A few people tried to hide their smiles. That tiny reaction pushed him over the edge. His composure cracked. "You think this is funny?" he barked, slamming his palm against the counter so hard that the mugs rattled. "You're done. You hear me? Done. I'll make sure HR knows exactly what kind of disrespect you've been showing me." I folded my arms, meeting his glare head-on. "Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them how you've been screaming at people all year, taking credit for their work and treating the rest of us like garbage." The laughter in the room died instantly. Even the sound of keyboards stopped. Everyone knew this wasn't just a spat anymore, it was a public reckoning. For a long moment, Eric didn't move. His jaw twitched, his eyes darting from me to the rest of the office. He realized what was happening. The people he'd controlled with fear were suddenly watching him lose that control. "You're lying," he said finally, but his voice wasn't as sharp now. "Everyone here knows I run this team." "Yeah," I said, "you run it like a dictator, you don't lead, you bully." There it was. The words hung in the air like smoke. My heart was pounding, but I didn't back down. For the first time in months, I felt free. Then a voice came from behind us, soft, hesitant, but firm. "She's right." It was Mia from accounting, the quietest person in the office. Everyone turned. "You've been screaming at us for weeks. You made Jake cry last month, Eric." Eric spun toward her, stunned. "That's ridiculous," but another voice joined in. "You told me my work looked like it was done by a child," said Marcus, our designer, and then another, and another. Within seconds, the room erupted. Years of frustration spilled out like floodwater breaking a dam. People who'd been silent for so long were suddenly speaking up, their voices rising, their faces red with anger and relief. You humiliated me in front of clients. You took credit for my project. You made us afraid to even take lunch breaks. Eric's face drained of color. He looked around like a man, watching his empire collapse brick by brick. "This is insane," he muttered. "You're all turning on me after everything I've done for you." "No," I said quietly, stepping forward. "We're finally standing up for ourselves." He glared at me, his voice trembling. "You'll regret this." But this time nobody believed him. Eric stood there, breathing heavily as if trying to pull authority back into his lungs. But it was gone. The room, the same room that once fell silent when he entered, was now filled with voices he couldn't silence anymore. He turned to our manager's glass office, eyes blazing. "You're all out of line," he shouted, his voice echoing through the open floor. This is mutiny. You think you can just gang up on me." "Eric," said our manager, Lisa, stepping out. She'd been watching the entire thing unfold from behind the glass wall. Her tone was calm, but her eyes were cold. "Enough," he froze. "Lisa, you're not actually going to take their side, are you? You know how hard I've worked." "I know exactly how you've worked," she interrupted. "And I've had enough complaints to fill a damn file cabinet. I should have dealt with this sooner." The entire office went silent again. Eric looked like someone had just punched the air out of him. His face twisted, not with anger this time, but fear. Lisa motioned to me. "Come with me," she said softly. My stomach dropped. I wasn't sure if I was in trouble or about to be thanked. I followed her into her office, closing the door behind me. Through the glass, I could still see Eric pacing like a caged animal, his hands shaking. Lisa sat down and sighed, rubbing her temples. "You did what everyone's been too afraid to do," she said finally. "But you also lit a match in a fireworks factory." I winced. "I didn't mean for it to explode like that. He just pushed too far." "I know," she said, her voice softening. "But you need to be careful. People like Eric, they don't take humiliation well, and right now he's humiliated." I glanced out the window again. Eric was staring straight at us, his expression unreadable. The moment our eyes met, a chill ran through me. By the time Lisa called HR, Eric had already started packing his things, or pretending to. His movements were sharp, angry, like he was trying to keep control over something in a situation that had spiraled far beyond him. The office was deadly quiet now. No one dared to speak. It felt wrong to celebrate, even though everyone knew what this meant. As Eric walked past my desk, he stopped. He leaned close, his voice low enough for only me to hear. "You think you won?" he hissed. "This isn't over, you'll see." I met his gaze, refusing to flinch. "Then I'll be ready." He gave a bitter smirk and walked out without another word. The doors closed behind him with a heavy click that seemed to echo through every cubicle. For the first time in a long while, the office felt quiet, free, but deep down I knew he wasn't lying. This wasn't over. Not yet. The next few days in the office felt strange. The air was lighter, sure, people smiled more. Music quietly played from someone's desk for the first time in months. But beneath that surface calm, there was still unease. Eric's absence was like a shadow we couldn't quite shake. Everyone was whispering. HR had launched a review into his behavior. Word spread that he'd been suspended pending investigation, but no one knew if he'd actually been fired. His desk remained untouched, papers scattered, a mug still half full of stale coffee. I tried to focus on work, but I could feel the stares. Some people looked at me like I was a hero. Others like I was the reason the storm hit in the first place. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. Then one night, as I was leaving late, I found something taped to my locker, a single sheet of paper. No words. Just a massive black coffee stain in the middle. I froze. For a moment I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. The stain was perfectly deliberate, dark, circular, mocking. My throat went dry. I glanced around, but the office was empty, just the hum of computers and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Eric. It had to be him. I tore the paper off the locker, heart pounding. There was no note, no signature. But the message couldn't have been clearer. It wasn't over. I didn't tell anyone right away. I knew what they'd say, ignore it. It's probably just a joke. But I could feel that same sharp tension in the air, the one that used to fill the room when he was still here. Like he'd left a piece of his anger behind and it was still stalking the halls. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment, his face, his voice, that last line before he walked out. You'll see. 2 days later, HR called everyone into a meeting. The air in the conference room was thick with anticipation. Lisa stood at the front, looking tired but resolute. As of this morning, she began, Eric is no longer employed with this company. A wave of whispers swept through the room. Relief, disbelief, maybe even fear. It was over officially at least. Lisa's eyes found mine. I know this week has been difficult for everyone, she said, but I want to thank those who came forward. What happened here wasn't easy to confront. There was polite applause, a few nods, but I couldn't bring myself to clap. Because even as I sat there, I couldn't shake the image of that paper, that stain. He might have been gone, but something told me he wasn't finished. For a while, things seemed normal again. People started joking in the break room, the tension faded, and for the first time in months I didn't dread coming to work. But underneath it all, I still felt watched. It was like the office itself had eyes. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid until the emails started. The first one came late one night. No subject line, no text, just a photo of the coffee-stained report I'd ruined that day months ago. At first I thought it was an old file, maybe something from the system archives, but then I noticed the timestamp. It had been taken that day. I stared at the screen for a long time, my pulse hammering in my ears. Someone was trying to scare me. Maybe Eric, maybe someone defending him. Either way, it worked. The next morning I showed Lisa the email. Her face went pale. We changed all his credentials, she said quietly. He shouldn't have access to anything. She called it immediately, but they found nothing, no login attempts, no digital fingerprints. Could have been a burner account, they said. Could be anyone. That was the worst part, not knowing who. Every time I went to the kitchen or walked down a hallway, I'd catch whispers stopping the second I entered. Some people thought I was lying to get sympathy. Others said Eric was just trying to get revenge. Either way, I was the story now, not him. That afternoon, as I sat at my desk, my monitor flickered for a second. Just static. And then, right before the screen went black for a split second, I swore I saw it again, that same dark coffee ring, centered perfectly on my desktop wallpaper. When it flicked back to normal, it was gone. That night, I stayed late to finish a report. The building was empty, silent except for the low hum of the air conditioning. I packed my things and headed toward the elevator when I heard it. A sound. Small, deliberate. The soft clink of a mug being set down. I froze. My eyes darted to the break room, and there, through the glass, was a coffee mug sitting in the middle of the table. Steam still rising. No one else was supposed to be here. I backed away slowly, heart pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in my head. My phone was in my hand before I realized it, ready to call security. But then I noticed the mug. It wasn't any random cup. It was Eric's. The same chipped black ceramic one with his name scratched into the side. And someone or something had just used it. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mug sitting there, steaming, waiting. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe someone found it in storage. Maybe it was a sick joke. But deep down, I didn't believe it. When I got to work the next morning, I went straight to the break room. The mug was gone, no trace of it. No stains, no steam marks, nothing. I asked the janitor if he'd seen it. He shook his head. Didn't clean anything last night, he said. Place was spotless when I came in. Lisa noticed my face the moment I stepped into her office. You look like you haven't slept, she said. I told her everything, the mug, the sound, the emails. She frowned. I'll call building security, she said firmly. We'll check the cameras. But when the footage came back, it was blank. From 10:15 p.m. to 10:43 p.m., the exact window I was there, the system showed nothing but static. That's when Lisa insisted I take a few days off. "You've been under a lot of stress," she said. "You need rest." I didn't argue, though deep down, I knew rest wouldn't fix this. The first day home, I tried to distract myself, watched TV, cleaned, even called an old friend to vent. But around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer until I saw the photo it sent. It was my office chair, the one I always sat in. Only this time there was something new in the picture. A coffee mug, Eric's mug, sitting neatly in the center of my desk. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking. It wasn't possible. I hadn't been there since yesterday, and I'd locked my office before I left. Then seconds later, another message came through. Just 3 words. "See you Monday." I called Lisa immediately. It was late, but she picked up on the second ring. "Lisa, he's still here," I said, my voice trembling. "He sent me a photo from my desk. He has a key. He's been in the office." "Slow down," she said. "We've changed the locks. He doesn't have access." "Then how did he get in?" I snapped. Silence. The next morning, security swept the building. No signs of forced entry, nothing missing, nothing out of place. My desk was exactly how I'd left it, no mug, no photo, nothing, like it never happened. Lisa looked at me with pity. "I believe you," she said softly. "But without evidence," I nodded, even though my stomach twisted. That night, as I sat in my car outside the building, watching the office windows glow in the dark, I saw a shadow move inside. Slow, purposeful, and then faintly through the glass I saw him. Eric, standing at my desk holding his mug, smiling. I sat there in my car, frozen, my breath fogging the glass as I stared up at that faint silhouette. Eric was just standing there, motionless, like he was waiting for me to make a move. My rational brain was screaming, "It can't be him. He's banned. There's security. There are cameras." But every instinct in my body whispered something else. "Run." I grabbed my phone and started recording through the windshield, zooming in on the office window. The shape was still there, tall, unmistakably male. And then, as if he somehow knew I was watching, it moved. Slowly, deliberately, toward the window. I stopped breathing. The figure leaned close to the glass. Even from a distance, I could see it clearly now, Eric's face, half lit by the glow of a computer monitor, a faint grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. Then, just like that, the light inside the office flickered, and he was gone. I bolted from the car and ran into the building. My hands shook so violently I dropped my access card twice before it scanned. The lobby was silent, eerily so. I sprinted to the elevator, my heart pounding like it was trying to break free. The office floor was empty, my desk untouched. The air felt cold still. No Eric, no sound. I went to the spot I'd seen him. His mug wasn't there, but something else was. A note, folded neatly, placed right on my keyboard. I hesitated, every instinct screaming not to touch it, but I had to. My fingers trembled as I opened it. It wasn't written in pen, it was typed, printed out. The message was short. "You should have left it alone." I stumbled back, heart hammering so loud it drowned everything else out. I ran to Lisa's office, but it was locked and dark. Security checked again, no one in the building, no signs of a break-in, no trace of anything. They told me it must have been a prank, maybe stress, maybe guilt. But I know what I saw. I know what I read. Now every morning when I walk into that office, I feel it again. That same faint smell of coffee in the air, even when no one's brewing it. And sometimes, just before the lights flicker, I swear I still hear that soft, familiar sound. Clink, the sound of a mug being set down.